Hey my friend, this is Joe Bakhmoutski. I am the founder of Power to Be Happy. And right now I want to talk to you about the 7 huge myths that exist in our culture about happiness. I really want to get those things out of the way because I think that these are the roadblocks to happiness. These are the things that really prevent us from being happy. And listen, have you ever had a time in your life when things were great, when everything was going well for you, and then something happened and that happiness that you just held in your hands, it just kind of slipped through your fingers? Well, my friend, I know that feeling. Because a few years ago, my life was really the best it's ever been. I met this amazing woman and we fell in love and we had a baby and my career was just going in the right direction. Just everything was going so well for me, finally, until just out of nowhere, I get diagnosed with cancer. I had to go through chemotherapy. I had to have surgery. And honestly, for the longest time, I was scared because I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea how things will turn out. And honestly, I was miserable because there were many people in my life who've kind of, disappeared on me, just at a time when I needed them the most. So it was tough, but I remember this one point when I was looking out the window of my oncology ward, and I remember saying to myself, you know what? I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be happy no matter what, despite all the craziness. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm just going to figure it out. And that's what I want for you, my friend, to be happy because you deserve it. Because listen, when you're happy, people want to be around you more. And you yourself are compelled to lead a life from a higher place. A place that is full of, making a greater impact, which makes you feel more fulfilled, where you have more fun and more joy in your life. Because that's what I've done, my friend. I went to form even stronger bonds with people that I care about the most. I went on to build new friendships with people that actually genuinely care about me. I went on to make a difference in a way that was really meaningful for me by starting my Simplify Cancer podcast and helping folks to deal with cancer on mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I also wrote this book, Simplify Cancer, Man's Guide to Navigating the Everyday Reality of Cancer. And I'm super proud of it, because I know that this is the best book in the world when it comes to real life advice, that helps men to, deal with cancer. And that's what makes me feel happy. And that's why I'm doing this and sharing, all these different ways of how we can access our power to be happy. But first, we got to get rid of those roadblocks of things that really get in the way of our happiness. So let's talk about those huge myths that exist in our culture about happiness. Because I think some of these things might apply to you, or have applied in your life before, because they certainly have really affected me, most of these. Actually, when I think about it, all of those things have really applied to me at one stage or another. So let's talk about it. So the first huge myth that exists in our culture about happiness is that happiness is random, it's accidental. We have no idea how it happens. It just kind of comes and it goes. It's completely unpredictable. We can't control it. We can't influence it in any way. But listen, when it comes to things that are so important to you in your life, the things that you really love the most, and things that you cherish the most, the things that you're really proud of, those things didn't really happen by chance, did they? Because I strongly believe that whatever we've made happen in our lives, consciously or unconsciously, we actually made them happen. And by consciously, I mean, it's like you had a goal. And then you work towards that goal. Maybe you had a plan and you worked through it and you ended up achieving that goal. So like it's like, for example, maybe you wanted to take the next step in your career. So you had to figure out what sort of job do you want to find. You had to maybe learn some new skills. You had to update your resume. You had to apply for jobs. You had to go to interviews. You had to get in touch with your network. And then maybe like by accident, you ended up getting a job, that an opportunity that you didn't really expect. But the reality is, by having a plan, by having a goal and an objective, you've set up the conditions in your life for serendipity. You set up the conditions to make things happen for you serendipitously. So you consciously made that happen. Or sometimes things happen unconsciously, right? So you maybe have a vision for what you want in your life. So maybe you have a vision that you want to fall in love or have a partner in your life, so a partner you can share your life with. And maybe you don't really know how to get there. Maybe you don't have a plan, but you have that vision. And so you kind of go out of your way to meet new people. And you go on dates, And that was a really drawn out and painful experience for me, but I got there, right? So maybe you don't have a plan, but you can still, make it work, but just kind of stumbling through it and figuring it out along the way. And happiness is exactly the same way, my friend. It works exactly the same way. You gotta have the intention. That is the critical component though, right? You gotta have the intention that I want to be happy. That's where it starts. And then you can build on top of that. You can go towards that deliberately. You can make it happen in your life, but you gotta have that intention and say to yourself, no matter what, I'm gonna be happy and I'll figure it out. Now on to the second huge myth about happiness that we have in our culture is that one day when everything just kind of come together for me, when everything just kind of falls into place, one day in the future, I'm going to be happy. One day, but not today, my friend. And that is a tragedy. Because what else do you need to be happy? Is it in some far-off future that might not even happen, or you don't know what it's going to look like? No. You want it to happen right now. And you got to believe that it's going to happen for you right now. You got to believe that it's attainable. You got to have the intention, right? We talked about that just now. You got to have the intention that I want to be happy. But you want to be happy, but also believe that it's real, that it's achievable, that it can happen in your life right now, not in the future, right now. And that leads up nicely into the third huge myth about happiness. And that is that the third myth is that happiness really goes to the other end of the timeline. Like, listen, have you ever met someone who constantly talks about, the good old days when things were better? And for that person, they always seem to talk about how things were better before, and they're never really happy with the way things are right now, and I think that's sad. I think it's sad when you leave your happiness behind, because the happiness is something that really lives in the moment. It happens right now. So I get it, listen, I get it that you gotta remember the good things and you gotta cherish those memories, right? It's so important. But you also gotta build new ones. You also, it's like you gotta add new great books to your library shelves to really stand next to the time-proven classics that you know and love. That is the natural way to be, isn't it? Now let's talk about the fourth big myth about happiness, and that is that happiness leads to disappointment. And I think we've probably all been there, right? Where maybe you wanted something so bad in your life and you've really been working so hard towards it, and then you actually, you made it happen. But when it did come through for you, it kind of felt hollow. Or maybe like it wasn't enough. Or maybe it's not what you thought it was going to be. Or maybe along the way, you kind of changed what you wanted and you realized maybe that's not what you wanted at all in the first place. Whatever the case might be, we kind of start to kind of link up this feeling of happiness, of going somewhere. We kind of think that it's going to link with disappointment because you're going to end up disappointed no matter what happens. And I think that is wrong, my friend. That is wrong because I kind of think about it like when you were a kid, when you were growing up, right? When you were growing up and maybe you had those shoes that you liked to wear, that you really loved wearing, these great shoes. But what ended up happening is you were growing up and you grew out of these shoes. But there is nothing wrong with growing. That is the only natural way forward. But there's nothing wrong with the shoes either, right? They served the purpose. They were right for you at this time. So really, I think the best way to look at it is to get new ones. And it's the same thing in life. It really is exactly the same way. Maybe you've outgrown that, that goal that you had, and you want to replace it with something new, a different vision for yourself, something that just gets you excited, something that gets you really fired up, something that, you're going to be driven towards, or something that's just going to be fun, So what is that for you? I think it's just so important to figure that out, right? Because if it excites you, you're going to move forward towards that. And that's going to make you fulfilled. That's just going to, make you excited to wake up in the morning, to get out of bed, I know that, for me, it was, writing this book, for example, was a huge motivational thing because I created something that was bigger than myself. I created a certain vision for myself. But really, it was something that completely created a new direction for me. So the way I really like to think about it, my friend, is to really think about what is going to be something that you can look back on maybe in a year's time, or 5 years' time, or 10 years' time, and you're going to say, I kind of regret not doing that. Because wouldn't it be true to say that we all have things in our past that we regret? But maybe we regret having done something, but also regret not doing something. So one thing I would love for you to have in your life is kind of looking at your life and looking at decisions that you make from the perspective, what is going to be something that I'm not going to regret when I look back on it? Because when you really come from that place, when you look at something and go, am I going to regret not doing that? And when you start doing more of those things, you really end up creating a regret-free life. Have a life where you don't regret things anymore. I mean, you may have regrets in the past, but it's in the past. Like, we can't change that. But if we're moving forward, you can create a regret-free life. And to be honest, that's how I'm living, my friend. That's my life. That is how I'm living, and I'm super proud of it because it's just such a weight off my shoulders, right? I just make all the decisions and I no longer regret things anymore because that's how I look at things. And I gotta tell you that when you have the regret-free life, there is one great shortcut towards happiness. Now let's talk about myth number 5. And this is an interesting one because I think we all have this thing where, or maybe you have been to that place in your life where it's like you're missing something. You're like missing this maybe last piece of the puzzle. Like if you only had this one thing, maybe then you would be happy. But I think in doing that, we're really pushing happiness away. It's kind of like, when it's a really freezing cold day and you're lying in your bed and maybe you just woke up because your alarm went off, right? And maybe you got to get up and do what you need to do, but you really don't want to get out of your own bed. You're just staying there And you come up with all of these excuses, like you think to yourself, maybe I'll get up maybe when someone else gets up. Or maybe I will get up when the house is warm. Or maybe I'll get up when I'm ready. I'll be ready in a minute, and that's when I'm going to get up. But of course, none of these things happen, and you just end up hitting the snooze button, and you go back to sleep, or whatever it is that you do, and you end up hitting the snooze button again and again and again until it's like 40 minutes later, and you're still in your bed, and nothing's changed, and you didn't really win anything, or you didn't really achieve anything. You just kind of delayed the inevitable. And I think that's how life is. We're delaying the inevitable, because you gotta get up for greatness, my friend. You gotta get up for greatness, and yet we're constantly hitting the snooze button on it, because there's no magic ingredient. Nothing's gonna come and just pop into your life and say, yes, you, my friend, are now ready for happiness. There's not going to be any final piece. We got to make it happen. We got to bring it from within ourselves. We got to have that intention. We got to have the belief that it's going to happen right now. And we got to have the belief that we can make it happen ourselves. And it's there, and it's within us. And we can put it to work. We can make ourselves happy. Now let's talk about the sixth big myth that we have in our life about happiness. So myth number 6 is that happiness is something that just won't last. And I think we've all been to a place where at one point or another we've had our happiness cut short. Maybe you had something happen in your life, and the good life that you had, it just kind of, it just broke it apart. We've all have things hard things, tough moments that happened in our life, tragic things, maybe things that we don't want to remember, we don't want to talk about, but they're there, they still exist, and maybe those things that really broke that feeling of happiness. And now we look at our lives and we look at moving forward, and we kind of think, well, what's the point of doing that? Because it won't last anyway. It will all kind of fall apart at some stage anyway. But you know what inspires me when I think about that? What inspires me the most is not really the example of my grandfather. He was, as a young man, he was conscripted into the Soviet army to fight against Nazi Germany in the Second World War. And that was really the best thing that's happened to him, because when he came back, his entire family, his parents and 2 of his brothers, they were all murdered in the Holocaust. So he came back from the war. That wasn't fun. And he came back from the war, and his entire family is gone. His home is gone. His entire life is gone. How do you start from there? But yet he built up his life that was a happy life. He had a family, and he was an amazing husband and father and grandfather. I grew up without a dad, but my grandfather was just such an immense father figure to me that I'm just really proud of all the things that he's done for me, and kind of inspired me to be the person that I am right now, because he's had a great life, and he was a doctor who saved thousands of people, and he was just like an inspirational person to be around. But the reason why I'm telling you about this is because despite all of those things that have happened in his life that were really, really tough and incredibly challenging, he didn't just discard it or push it away or push it to the side. He used it. He used it to build on top of his life. He still sang songs from the times when he was young. He told stories about those people that were no longer alive. And he kind of took it with him onto the journey of happiness. It almost inspired him to lead a life where he was happy, where he was able to contribute and to build, strong and powerful bonds with people, And I think that's what we ought to do, because maybe those times that we had that we had happiness, where it didn't really, really last. Maybe there was a glimpse, into the big and bright future that you deserve to have in your life. Maybe there was like a preview into happiness. And if you use all of those things that happened in our past, maybe the good things, but also the bad things, or the tough things, or the challenges, or the tragic events, and take it with you. Take it with you on the journey forward, on the road towards happiness. We take it with you, and it's going to form an integral part of where you are, of who you are right now, and where you're going, right? And the reality is we can't control what's going on anyway, right? We can't predict everything that's going to happen. So there's really no use worrying about it. So why worry about what can go wrong when there is so much to make right? Now let's talk about the seventh big myth that exists in our culture about happiness. I mean, this is certainly true for me, big chunks of my life, and maybe it could be true for you as well. And that is that happiness is not for you. That is that happiness is actually reserved for someone else. That maybe somebody else is better placed to be happy. Or maybe someone else is more deserving. Or maybe somebody else is more lucky in some way. It's funny because with these things, we probably can't even articulate it, right? We can't even really put it into words. We just feel on some level that we don't deserve to be happy. But I'm here to tell you, because if no one said this to you before, my friend, I've got something to tell you, and I want to tell this to you right now. If no one has said this to you before, I want to be the person that says this to you right now, that happiness, my friend, is your birthright. Happiness is the inheritance you're going to claim for yourself, because you are entitled to happiness. Happiness is your destiny. You are entitled to be happy. You were born to be happy. And no one can just give it to you, and no one can take it away. It's just kind of reserved for you by the virtue of being alive, by the virtue of being here, and that it's yours. It's yours. It's your inheritance, so you can come and claim it. It's your power to generate happiness in your life. It's your power to be happy. My friend, my name is Joe Bakhmoutski, and I'm here to help you and support you and to guide you in that process, and to support you in finding more ways to access your power to be happy. So if you still haven't signed up to my weekly email newsletter about how to be more happy and how to be more fulfilled in everything that you do, go and sign up right now. Go to powertobehappy.com, put in your name and email, and sign up right now. But right now, as of today, I want to thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for being here. I hope this has helped you. Go and sign up to the newsletter, and let's stay in touch. Thank you.